Can the widowed princess find friends amidst foes? Will the Templar convert a nation? And did the Elantrians take the charge to consume their history a little bit too literally? Find out today on the most important words.
I had not heard your chapter summaries yet. Those are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, those are just, yeah. So welcome to the most important words. This is a place where we talk about stories that matter to us. I'm Clark, and I'm joined here by my co-host, David. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
So spoiler shield, although I guess we kind of spoiled a little bit. We'll be reading chapters 2, 3, and 4 in Elantris today. Pretty cool chapters. I'm excited to keep going after this. So let's start chapter 2. I'll just read the summary and then we can discuss it.
Get right into it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Chapter 2. Okay, so chapters 2 and 3, I wrote the summaries. I found out after that I could just find summaries on the internet. So chapter 4 will be an internet summary. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. It's probably better though. Chapter 2. Serene, stepping off the boat from Teod, landing in Arelon, discusses Raedon's death with her scion Ash. Raedon was to be her husband in a few short days. They discuss that per the contract, she is in all intents and purposes married to him and is now a princess of Arelon. The greeter, Keetle, at the docks seems uninterested. Serene wishes to attend Raedon's wake. The Karathi wake shows Raedon was well liked, but feels a little bit too sterile, and they won't show her the body. Serene decides something's up. On the carriage ride to meet King Iadon of Arlen, she muses about being past her prime and insecurity, fueled by her missing out on a husband after all this time. Kai is lush, vibrant, and rich, odd for a nation's capital, which has been quarantined since the Shead. She sees a blue-robed Karathi priest procession leading a whitely robed person. Iadon, who took power during turbulent times, decided to build his palace right next to Elantris, a fact Serene finds odd. We find out why Serene is really here, to build allies against an inevitable war against the Fjordans. Serene meets King Iadon and her new king and father. He lacks decorum, shows apathy towards Raedon's death, orders his queen around like a servant, and disregards Serene as an honored guest, sending her to her room to be occupied with, quote, embroidery or whatever else it is that entertains you women, end quote. Ishan, Iadon's wife, talks quite a lot about everything except Raedon's death. Ash finds there are far fewer scions in the city than they would have thought, and they won't talk about Raedon's death, the scions that is. Serene thinks he was murdered. Serene muses over how it doesn't seem like a court in mourning, and she learns Ishan is not Raedon's mother. His mother died 12 years ago. Iadon remarried a few months after he took the throne. She then talks with her father about the disappointment of Raedon's death. She actually thought she could have loved Raedon. He offers for her to come home, and she decides to stay for her country. Okay, so what was your initial impression of Serene when you first read the book? Do you remember?
Definitely a troublemaker in an interesting way, where she comes in, sees all this stuff. Her father makes some comments about like, oh, you know, like, what are you going to do over there? Like,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what has she done over in her previous kingdom, right? Like, she's come over here as a, to be married, which I thought was fascinating. It's a really interesting cultural thing. I don't know if you picked this up from another real culture. I've never heard of this, though. Maybe it was real, where like, if you're engaged in a political marriage and somebody dies, you technically are now married and widowed, and all of the agreements, all those political agreements are still there, so she comes over for politics, right? And he's gone, and so now she's just married to him, and her father is a very friendly father, very kind, right? They have a really great relationship, and he seems concerned about what kind of trouble she's going to raise.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm like, oh boy, what is she gonna be up to? She's not content with embroidering or whatever other things we women do. She's not content with that.
I quite like Serene. She definitely seems like the almost cliche, girl who doesn't follow rules, but it's not a horrible cliche. Like, there's a reason it's a cliche because it works. Like,
I do like that it's balanced with the fact that like she legitimately was falling for Raodon. Like she had hope. She's like, wait, it's a political marriage, but this guy's actually awesome. He's nothing like all the other dum-dums I was getting ignored by over in my kingdom. I can't remember the name of her kingdom already.
Teod.
Keod?
Teod,
Yeah.
like toad,
Teod.
Teod, I think. The T, yeah.
Teod. Yeah, all the names, all these names are so weird.
He does a good job with his
Anyways,
names in this book. They're pretty interesting.
yeah. Teod. Yes, Teod. Yeah. I think it's a good setup. It shows she's well-rounded. She's, politically minded. She's smart. She doesn't like really being told what to do, but at the same time, she's also soft. She was looking forward to a relationship with Red, and she came to surprise him, to spend personal time with him before the political marriage. Like that's why she's alone, because she snuck on. She was like, I'm going to surprise him. I'm going to get there early. We're going to spend time together because I actually think I could like this guy. And then she walks into whatever's going on, where people are like, oh, he's dead, but we're
Yeah.
just moving on. Don't ask too many questions. She's like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little too on the nose, but it's also like kind of interesting that she just walks in. They're just like, yeah, whatever. He's gone. Don't you worry about it. We'll keep you busy with embroidery and whatnot.
Yeah,
Flowers.
crazy. So there's a couple things that I wanted to point out about this chapter. The first one is when she muses with Ash. She's like, why did he build his kingdom so close to Elantris? So it's a little bit of an interest. And Ash just says, well, it probably makes sense because of the ports or whatever. So it's a bit of an interesting thing. Like, there's basically a question, like, is that suspicious that he's right next to Elantris?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the question is, and we'll get into this a little bit later after chapters 3 and 4, but, like, was he a part of the downfall of Elantris? Like, did he play a part? We don't know. It does seem a little odd that the country, Opalon, we will find out in the next chapter that Opalon is indeed the continent, which we talked about in the prologue.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a
That's
question
not the
about
name
that.
of the planet. I know that for sure.
It's definitely the continent. But anyway, this guy becomes the king of this, used to be Elantris kingdom. And he decides to build his kingdom right next to Elantris, which is interesting. And, of course, it's a little bit odd that it's such a rich place. She says that wasn't, she sort of didn't expect that because it's been quarantined. Therefore, maybe some of the trade is like a little bit off. So why are they so wealthy? So yeah, that was an interesting bit here. Serena's talking to Ash, and she specifically mentions how the Fjordan priests are a problem in the world. She's like, a couple years ago, I didn't think it was an issue. I didn't think that the priests would have much say, but so you can tell she doesn't like Fjordan priests, which we will get into in a little bit. In addition, just kind of an insight, it seems like the world is a mess. The fall of Elantris, the world is kind of changed, it seems like. The Fjordans have taken over a lot of the world, it seems like. And so she's here, trying to make an alliance. It just seems like the world in general. Also, she mentions something called the Fall of the Duladel. The Fall of Duladel, which I think is where Galadon's from.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just some
Lots
interesting
of
world building.
You can already see his world building brain, even in these earlier books. So he's got politics, religion, magic, all these things all mixed up into an interesting story.
Yeah. And so there is one quote that I really liked. I don't have the exact quote, but basically when she's talking, this is like just a really cool world building thing. This is the last thing I have for this chapter. She talks about how she's super tall. It's when she's trying on the dress and she's like, man, this thing's like, I thought this wouldn't fit very well. She talks about how because she's so tall, her dad calls her Lecky Stick.
Lucky Stick, yeah.
And that is the goalpost of his favorite sport. And that's all we get. We get no other information. And so it's just so cool that, like, we haven't even met her dad yet, but we know that her dad has a love of a sport. Either he still plays it or he watches it or he used to play it, right? There's something in his life that makes him love this sport. And he calls his daughter Lecky Stick because it reminds him of this thing that he loves. And so you can tell he loves his daughter because he calls her the thing after the thing he loves, which is the sport, which is such a cool little, just a world building thing. And again, we know nothing about the sport. We don't know how it's played. We don't know if it involves a ball. Like, we literally know nothing, which is a cool bit of world building, that there is this thing that we just probably will never know about. but it says more about her dad than anything, that he cares about her,
Well,
that he loves her, and just a really
and to
cool.
add to that whole conversation with her father is the fact that he said that she could come back. She's like, I
Yeah,
understand this would cause a lot of political issues. He's like, I don't care. If you don't want to be there now that Raoden's dead, like, I'll take you back. We'll deal with the consequences of ruining this political marriage. Like, that's, he's like, he's willing to put the, this entire thing, you know, at risk if she's not comfortable being there. Like, that's how good of a dad he is, which, I mean, it's a good dad, probably a bad politician, but
yeah. I mean, really cool dad though. Like it's cool that she has that like backup, and it shows her
Mhm.
too that she decides to stay. It shows her character that
Yep.
really she's here to help her country. So
She is, right? Exactly. So she's not just a helpless little princess. Like, she is here for political reasons, and even without Raodon, which she was looking forward to, she's not gonna give up. She's gonna keep going.
exactly. Cool.
Good
Moving
chapter.
on
Good
to
introduction to
chapter.
Serene, yeah.
It is, yeah. I like Serena. Okay, chapter 3, dude. I love Hrathen. I think Hrathen is so cool. Oh
Oh
wait, I got to read
boy.
the synopsis. Sorry, what? I'm getting ahead of
Yeah.
myself, dude.
These
Um,
ravens.
oh, dude, I love
Yes.
Hrathen. Okay, I will say before I read this, I think chapter 3 is one of the strongest character introductions of like any character I think I've ever read. Like top
Maybe
5.
not Seth.
Yeah, that's why I said top 5. Yes,
Yeah.
chapter 1
It's a good
Wakens
one.
is
It's a
like
good one, yeah.
unparalleled. Okay, chapter 3. Hrathen arrives in Arlon and is led to the temple by the current High Arteth of the city Fionn. I'm hoping I get these names right. He sees the temple is disorderly in his estimate and calls a council with the priests. He tells Fionn that he is to leave back to Fjorden on his ship and he is taking charge of the religious citadel. This is because of Fionn's failings. They need a priest, not a friend. The people of Arlon, that is. Hrathen reads the words of his mission and Fionn comes in to repent. Hrathen gives him a mercy and tells him that he has a work in the kingdom. He is to return to Fjorden and rededicate his life. Hrathen then starts going through interviews with all of the Fjorden priests, and an Arlon by race priest comes in, Artith Delaf. Delaf tells his conversion story, and Hrathen determines he is a zealot that could be useful. He officially gives him the title of Artith, and then makes him his Odiv, which is a slave. Hrathen then sends him on a mission to kill Fionn if he leaves the boat headed back to Fjorden. He then rereads the scripture message, and we learn Fjorden is planning on taking over Arlon and Teod in 3 months' time, unless Hrathen, the savior of heathens, can convert them all. It's just such a strong character, dude. So we get Hrathen, he walks off the boat, and instantly we see that he's wearing these this plate mail, right? Like this
Right.
this
Red.
red plate, which is cool for
Yeah.
a priest. Like that doesn't seem super normal for a priest.
Very fantasy, like a battle cleric type thing,
Yeah. Okay, we do also. I got this quote here. Yet of all the kingdoms on the Cyclan continent, oh, okay, so it's not even the whole continent. The land named Opalon by the Arlanes, only Arlon itself had avoided coming under the dominion of the Fjordell Empire. So there was a quote in the prologue that says, men visited Elantris from all across Opalon to receive Elantrian healings, food, or wisdom. So my initial thought that it was like this world power, Elantris, it doesn't seem like it was. It probably
It's
had
pretty
world
concentrated
influence.
to this one spot. Like,
Yeah,
even on the continent, it's still only one small part of it.
yeah. So I wanted to go through a couple of little entrance, little pieces here that we can tell a little bit, because I think the character of Hrathen is probably the most compelling. So I had a couple of quotes here that I wanted to read. So the first one
Yeah.
is here. Fionn, so this is after Fionn comes and gets him. So Fionn trotted along with a smile on his lips, occasionally waving to passers on the streets, calling out pleasantries. The people responded in kind, at least until they saw Hrathen, his blood-red cloak. So not only is he wearing armor, but he's got a cloak as well.
Yeah.
Capes are cool, dude. Billowing behind him in his exaggerated armor cut with sharp angles and harsh lines. They fell silent, greetings withering, their eyes following Hrathen until he passed. Such was as it should be. So the armor has these sharp angles and harsh lines. I'm wondering if that is for like intimidation. Like, is this ornamental? he definitely notices Kai's defensive, like lack of defensive structures when he gets here. So he's definitely has some kind of a militaristic mind.
Oh yeah.
But then he, I'm wondering if it's also just sort of supposed to intimidate, which I think it is a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, that is built for intimidation. I almost think of, like, Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah,
Like the
dude.
big spiky plate metal. You're just like, oh yeah, I think that guy's spooky.
Like the Witch King, just he looks scary.
Yeah, just right, like intimidating.
And it's cool that it's
Oh
blood red, specifically blood red.
yeah,
It's not like
right.
it symbolizes, power. And then of course
Exactly.
it says such as it should be. So these people shouldn't even be talking to me. So so we can tell from this that he definitely has a opinion about how things
Oh
should
yeah,
go, right?
a little bit of superiority
Yeah.
complex. Just like, yeah, well, these guys are all heathens. Like, I'm on a holy mission, and these are heathens. Which, by the way, do you know the story of when he came up with Brandon Sanderson came up with this story and started writing it?
No.
He was on his own mission in Korea at the time when he came up with this. And so all this stuff with like Frathan and coming in with all this religious zealousy and a holy mission and all this different stuff, he was literally on a mission himself when he came up with this.
That is awesome.
I don't
That
know if he was like mad at one of his leaders or something, or like he's just like, oh, I don't know how he went from that to this, but you could tell like the religion was deeply on his mind, especially how easy it is to have zealots kind of overtake something. Anyway, I just thought it was funny. So
that is
it's a cool
cool.
piece of context to put yourself in his mind space as to
Mm.
how he's coming up with this.
That is super interesting. And you can tell one thing I really love religious overtones. Like that is some of my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the reasons why is because you simply can't argue with it. So Hrathen is, and I've got another quote here. Actually, let me read the quote. So basically, Fionn comes. So he kind of sends Fionn away, right? And then Fionn comes into him to sort of like kneel down and like sort of ask for forgiveness, right? And it says right here, Fionn entered the room, then crouched in a subservient huddle on the floor, his forehead rubbing the ground. Okay, so he's sort of like kneeling in, humility. And it says, Hrathen allowed himself to smile, knowing that the penitent artist couldn't see his face. Perhaps there was hope for Fionn yet. So Hrathen is not smiling out of mockery, right? He's not smiling out of, this man honors me. He literally cares about this dude's soul. Like he actually believes this religion. Like he actually believes that this man
Oh yeah.
has messed up in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how they don't need a friend, they need a priest, which is another really interesting sort of dynamic. But
Right.
it's cool that we see into his mind, right? Like this isn't super. I don't know. He doesn't come across as like the typical villain, if that makes sense. Like he definitely has
Right.
conflicting goals and motivations to Sereni, like exactly opposite. But we get to see his
But
side,
in
which is
his
so
mind, he's
cool.
coming to save these people. He's like, these guys
Yes,
are all gonna die unless I can fix this. And he's not coming, I'm going to destroy these people. He's coming, I'm going to save these people from themselves.
exactly, and he
You
believes
know?
it.
Like,
Like
and he is, yeah, full-hearted believes he is the savior. He even says it multiple times that he is the savior. They don't even realize their savior is walking among them right now, you know?
yeah,
It's like, oh boy, this guy. That's not problematic.
yeah, exactly. Super interesting. Um, okay, so the next piece here that I wanted to read is. So this is actually before Fionn gets in. This is super interesting to me. Nodding to himself, Hrathen turned his attention back to the scroll on his desk. His orders. He barely dared hold them in his profane hands. Later, he actually talks about how these are scripture, specifically. He read the words over and over again in his mind. Listen to this phrase. Imprinting both their physical form and their theological meaning on his soul. That sounds a little bit like magic to me. So, I haven't really run into magic yet, up until this chapter. And I don't know if this is magic, but this sounds like a Brandon Sanderson form of magic to me. So imprinting
Right.
both their physical form and their theological meaning on his soul, which is interesting.
Guess we'll have to read and find out. Huh?
Yeah, that's definitely a ref on that one. Okay. So I got another quote from him because they're just so good. This is when he's like repenting, and he says, "Your sin was complacency, Artith. Contentment has destroyed more nations than any army, and it has claimed the souls of more men than even Elantris' heresies." So we get a lot from that. First of all, Elantris' heresies. The Dula. I'm so bad with the names of these religions, but I'm pretty sure these are the priests that Galadon and Radon talk about, how these are the ones that say that the Elantrians are cursed, right? They're cursed of God.
Right.
And I really like that phrase. Contentment has destroyed more nations than any army and has claimed the souls of more men than even Elantris' heresies. So even though I may not agree with this Templar's goal of conquering every nation under the sun, like I totally feel that, and I think that that is an issue I have in my life, is like complacency. So it's cool that you understand this guy's religious overtones, and even though you disagree with the motivations, some of the, I guess,
there's always truths or truisms, even in people. Like when people are truly zealous of an idea, it's like it's not usually because the idea is terrible. There's usually some seed of truth in there, some actual thing that makes them believe, and then problematic when you don't balance that.
yeah. Okay, jumping ahead, Artith D. Laugh comes in, who's the Aura. He's like an Aeonic, I think is actually the correct phrase. He's from Arelon. I think it's Aeonic, though. I think is the proper way to refer to someone from Arelon. Could be wrong there. Basically, this guy comes in and, we find out that he tells him his conversion story. He's a bit of a schemer, like you feel. After he kind of introduces himself, this is what Hrathen thinks of him. Hrathen smiled. Dilaf, though not of the chosen race, was obviously a man who understood the doctrine and culture of his religion. So this is like a really interesting phrase, because up until now, we've sort of thought of, if you convert to this religion, that is the goal, right? To convert everyone in Arlon to the religion and Teod. But it seems like even if you're introduced into the religion, you're not really held in the same standing as the people that are like native Fjordell, right? The chosen race.
Blood kind of conversion versus chosen people. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance that you can see in here from his own understanding of religion and actual world politics and things.
Yeah. Okay, so then he makes him into a full Artith. And there's this interesting phrase here. He says, Hrathen congratulated himself on creating such a useful tool. So he's like almost like, prideful about it. Which, by the way, pride is actually a really interesting thing here. He actually tells Fionn, Fionn's like, is there any forgiveness for me? And he says, that is Arlene foolishness speaking, Artith, not Fjordell pride. So pride is definitely really important to their culture and their religion.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he's priding himself, congratulates himself on making such a useful tool, completely satisfied with them, until the moment Delaf looked up from his bow. The passion was still there in Delaf's eyes, but there was something else as well, ambition. Hrathen frowned, wondering whether or not he had just been manipulated. He then makes him his Odiv, which is like a slave, and says, follow Fionn until, and if he gets off the boat, kill him, basically.
Kill
him. Okay, so we should read a little bit of his letter, but I kind of want to talk about Hrathen for a second, just like a prediction. So I predict that Hrathen is not the bad guy. I don't know, that's a bit of a weird way to say that. I think he's going to be a complicated character. I think he fully believes in his mission, but I think that this character just seems so unhinged, like just first impression, that this is going to be the bad guy in this sector of the story, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
that this guy's going to betray Hrathen, and I think that he's going to. I don't know. Hrathen doesn't seem evil. This guy seems capital E evil. Like he just he creeps me
Deloff?
out. Yeah, Deloff. He really creeps me out. So we'll track that. But
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
he's a creep,
Well,
dude.
yeah. This is actually so side note on all of this, right? So I'm trying to write my own book right now. You read the first chapter,
Yep.
and I'm really working on like kind of phrasing, wording, how to show not tell. And like in this book, I'm noticing Sanderson's just like hint, 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 information, it's very like it's all there. And so for an early book, I can kind of see, like he's got these ideas, he's trying to place seeds, but having coming from now having done a lot of research on how to write, I'm seeing a lot of like the early author that's like, oh, I want to put hints here, and they're just a little too
A little
blunt, a little
obvious.
too forward, a little too obvious, things like that. And it's like actually really fascinating because as I'm reading it, I'm actually, not just enjoying the story, but looking at it from like a prospective author, right? I don't call myself an author yet. I'm trying to write, right? But like coming from that angle, I'm like, yeah, oh, okay. He's just like puts it right there on the page, like just this is information that'll be important, or oh, look at that, that's unusual, and it's like, oh no, it's a little on the nose, huh?
That's
But it's
actually
it's still good. You can tell he
yeah.
thought about it, but you can tell it's early. It's his early work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my small complaints about this book actually that that I didn't even think of, I forgot until you brought that up. There have been 3 times now that I have read a phrase and then immediately had a thought. Because the way I like to read is I like to really pick these things apart. So I will
Hmm.
read something, I will pause and think like, what does this mean, right? So one of them specifically was when Sereni was saying, oh, like, I don't know, something seems up. Like, I don't think he actually died. And her Sion says, you have a suspicious nature, my lady. But like right before I read, like literally before that sentence, I sort of paused and was like, she's a little bit of a skeptic, right? And then I read that next sentence and I'm like, oh, okay, Brandon, thank you. Like, I guess I don't have to think about this. So that was one of the instances. There's 2 other instances. I can't remember. I think one of them was just
Right.
right
And
on, but it's just
and
so,
and honestly,
yeah,
as an author, you're like trying to make sure people pick up on things. And one of the feedbacks I keep getting when I have people read it, or or run it through like an editor program, it's like trust the reader,
mm-hmm,
show don't tell. Like people will pick up on things. You don't need to be so explicit with stuff. But I put it out there because I'm like, that's my idea. I want this idea to come across, and I always get pushback like it's a little much. Pull it back. Trust the readers. They'll figure it out. And you can tell again in this early work of his that like he's still trying to find that balance.
yeah. Even still, I still like the book a lot. So
Oh, it's a phenomenal book. The premise, characters, everything is really, really, really interesting. And I'm just kind of nitpicking as as somebody trying to write a book. I'm picking up on
makes
other
sense.
early author, thing traps he's falling into that I'm like, oh yeah, even Sanderson struggled with these things. I
Yeah.
see. I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, and you just will. Like it's one of those, but
It's just
as his first published book, this thing crushes, but yeah, it's
oh yeah,
definitely
this thing
not
rocks. Like
perfect.
there's so much going on in just the first few chapters. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, we should probably get this ball rolling a little bit, huh?
Yeah. I think I'm actually good on this chapter. I think we've covered
Hmm.
it's a pretty interesting letter that he reads from like the king. But I think I'm actually okay. I think I've covered everything I want to with Raythan. So let's move on to the next
Just
chapter.
stuff's up. Bunch of
Yeah.
zealots, a bunch of crazy people. What's going on with this religious,
Yeah.
military country taking over everything? We'll
Chapter
see.
4. This is
Oh
a good one.
boy.
Okay, this one I think is ripped straight from Coppermind. This one's probably a decent summary that I didn't write. Radon and Galadon watch the arrival of a new Elantrian, an older woman, who lingers for a while in the courtyard, feeling pain and despair before facing her fate. She then exits the courtyard to the left, getting robbed of her food offerings by Karata's gang. one of three predominant groups of Elantris. Besides the gangs following Sheor and Eandon, I think is how you say it. That might be wrong, but that's what I'm going to say today. Eandon. I can't even remember what the audiobook says. Galadon explains to Rheodon how physical pains eventually cause Elantrans to become catatonic from unending suffering, since any received wounds don't heal. Galadon also speaks of his unending hunger, which he has been able to persevere through during his months of living in the city, but which he thinks will eventually overwhelm him. Galadon educates Rheodon on the geography and factions of Elantris and different food sources that have been discovered. Rheodon and Galadon traverse a great distance across the city to the market area to survey Sheor's domain, walking slowly and carefully to avoid any hurts, passing many Hoed, who act as a constant reminder of the cost of carelessness. Rheodon daydreams of his former life and friends and would-be wife, and speculates about the changes to Elantris since the Raod. Rheodon and Galadon also tour the university and palace areas, which are controlled by Karata and Eandon. Rheodon spots a well that draws power from the underground Aradel River, which Galadon speculates was used for religious purposes, since wells were not required in Elantris due to the presence of plumbing. Rheodon spies a Scion wandering aimlessly, which is a common sight in Elantris since any Scion bonded to an Elantrian loses its sanity. And he thinks about his own Ian. Rheodon and Galadon take shelter from rain in Galadon's hidden lair, which to Rheodon's delight contains a collection of books. Galadon reveals that he can draw aeons. Magic!
Dude, I forgot about that scene where he's like, "Oh, what this?" And
This
just
thing? Yeah.
draws an aeon, and jaw drops. Just like, "Wait, what?" Yeah,
So good. So let me just keep this relatively brief. Let me read just three more little summaries that I wrote about the three gang leaders. So Sheor is one who finds pleasure in controlling others, and for some reason the most wild and morally corrupt Elantrians find their way to him. That's an actual quote. And he is in the market section. Eandon claims he was a baron, holds court, ate all of the old texts in the library that were made from vellum, which is a total heresy,
yeah.
and supposedly is planning to attack Kai, so a zombie horde. Karata hates Elantris more than others, you see, and has escaped numerous times, being recaught in Kai 3 separate times. Yeah, so pretty interesting. I kind of want to talk about Karata for a second. So the question is why? Why is she in Kai? Why is she not, if she gets out of Elantris, first of all, how did she get out of Elantris? Like, that's interesting. Why not travel to some distant island and just live out her existence? Like, why Kai? I know Brandon's little seeds, and I know Karata is Rheodon's mom. I think she is anyway. I don't know for sure, but this definitely seems like a little bit of a Brandon seed that I'm pretty used to at this point. So that's my, my prediction. So first of all, Karata is interesting because she doesn't really let people into her, like, club gang, I guess.
Gang.
So
yeah,
that's a little bit of an interesting. So here's what where I think this is going. I think Rheodon and Galadon will meet his mom. By the way, he's been in her presence twice now, when he came into the city and when that lady was in the city, because she's the one that specifically took the mom's, offerings. But obviously she wouldn't recognize him and he wouldn't recognize her because they're zombies. And so I think it's his mom. I think they're going to join forces. I think she knows how to get out. And I think he's going to find Ian, the Scion. And I think that they are going to use Ian, fix the Scion somehow with Galadon's magic tricks, and communicate with Serene outside of the city. So I think that that's how these two groups are going to kind of match up and then work together to do something. I don't exactly know what, but those are some predictions I have so far.
good predictions. I guess we'll have to see if they
Yeah.
sure or not.
So
But thinking about it, that's fun.
yeah. Okay, there's a lot we could talk about, but I think I just want to talk about the magic for a second. There's a really interesting phrase that Galadon says. He says, when talking about the well, Galadon says Eandon magic. I think that was the phrase he uses. not Elantrian magic. And he does use the word Elantrian magic earlier in the chapter. So I don't know if this is an oversight. I don't know if it's just, but I'm wondering if there's like multiple sort of like sources of magic. Source might not be the
That's a
right
good
word.
question. I don't think I remember
Types.
that.
Yeah, he says
Of, like-
Aeondan magic. And then earlier when they were in the market, he's like, people came to buy Elantrian magics. So he seems like he knows what he's talking about, right? The dude's magic.
Right.
He looks up at the spire, which is the center of Elantris, and it looks like he's looking at something that Radon can't see. Again, I'm assuming something magical. And then, of course, he uses these aeons. He draws this letter in the sky, and it lights up. So the other references to aeons, briefly, are Radon's casket is carved with aeons. Seons, said to be ancient creatures of Elantris magic, and Serene can see the aeon at the center of Ash's light. So these Seons are also have aeons involved with them. And Ishin,
okay.
yeah, and then Ishin, Iadon's wife, has aeonic hair. And so that's why I think aeonic is the proper phrase for someone from Aurelon. But yeah, that word has popped up a couple times now. And yeah, something to do with...
A lot of these words are really similar. And without having them right in front of me, I think I'm getting them mixed up. Because like an aeon is... It'll go more into it. I don't want to say much more. But I think you're on the right track. So the aeons... And then the Elantrian magic is aeonic magic, and I'll just put out that much. It's the same thing. I kept thinking of Aeondin, the guy, and I was like, "What is that?"
Well, I think that's the phrase. I think he says Aeondin magic.
Yeah. Anyway, these words are all very similar, but yeah. We'll get more into it as it goes, but the symbols are important. You can see they're inside the aeons, right? Galadin draws one, then it glows, right? These symbols are something.
Yeah.
That's as much as we'll get into at this point. Yeah.
So then, just to close out this section, just questions I have. How is Galadon the only one that can use it? Is he the only one that can use this magic? Is he the only one smart enough or interested enough to try to find out how to use the magic? He claims that he found this library with all these aeons scribed into the walls. Is that true?
Happened across a secret basement library.
Yeah, that's a little fishy. Did he preserve some of the more interesting books from the library before they got eaten up? I don't know.
Yeah, it's also wild. All this like ancient knowledge is literally just getting gobbled up. Like that, like Raiden's reaction to that was so funny. He's just like,
it was, yeah.
No, they're eating it, all the knowledge.
yeah, it's hilarious. I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, a couple other tertiary things. We had a couple of questions answered. Galadon has been here a few months, not a couple of years. In addition, they have tried eating each other, but the flesh is so vile that they cannot. Yeah. And the last thing that was kind of a question, this person that they see get thrown into Elantris, I think Brandon was really careful with who it is. She is a mom. Like that is literally the item we used last week to talk about.
An older lady with kids. It's like just a random person. Like, could you imagine? It says it's anybody. We've got a prince, we got a foreigner, we've got a mom, we've got apparently some baron, maybe, possibly. Like it could pick anybody for any reason.
Yeah. Cool. I think I'm good there. I want to move on to a Cosmere-wide discussion now, just for like 5 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to stop there. Spoilers here are, I've read all of Stormlight, I've read Mistborn Era 1 and Warbreaker, and now I'm reading Elantris. I don't think we'll really cover all of those, but those are what I've seen, so that is what the spoilers could contain. Okay, so they keep using the phrase merciful Domai. I'm wondering if there is a shard, and I did not look in Wind and Truth. I know Wind and Truth lists like most of them, but I didn't look just because I want to be a little bit surprised if it is the case. I'm wondering if there's a shard called Mercy. I can't remember. That seems like it goes kind of with honor and odium and yada, yada, yada. So I'm wondering if there's a shard called Mercy that is involved with this planet. In addition, I'm wondering if there is one called Pride. I know not every planet has like 2 shards, or maybe not even every planet has a shard, but it seems like we've got 2 different types of magic here. One of them from this like scripture scroll thing that Hrathen reads, and one of them that is Aeonic in nature. And of course, he thinks these are heresies. And so it makes me think that there's 2 different magic systems or more. And if there are, I'm wondering if there's 2 or more shards. I don't know. Just something to think about.
There is, yeah, I don't want to get into too many spoilers with, so I don't know, like, are the names of the shards spoilers is a great question. Maybe we need to come up with that anyway. But I like the fact that you're thinking about these things especially after having read, Mistborn, where it's always rust and ruin, where it's like, oh, ruin is one of the shards,
Yeah.
It's like there's a correlation between swearing and phrases people say and the shards on those planets. And so
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking
what does
merciful
Doma
Domai.
mean?
It seems like merciful
Doma.
mercy.
What does that even mean? Is there something on here? Yeah. Anyway, it's something to think about.
Yeah, and then of course the last thing we kind of mentioned it last week, but Galad Army like throws this orb down and now I know what they're called. These aeons appear in the sky or in the air in front of him. So it seems like this orb thing he crushes is some form of container. Like you can, because it seems like you got to draw these things in the air to like do something with them, right? And so it seems like there's some kind of a containerized way to transport these so that you don't have to draw them in the air in front of you. You can like almost like batch them up, I don't know.
Well, and just to give you some like Cosmere context, right? Like, what was the thing they thought the whole goal of the Ghost Bloods on Roshar? What was the thing they were trying to do?
Yeah, to transport investiture off world.
Raw investiture is really hard to transport, and Stormlight in a crystal is apparently one of the most stable portable forms of investiture, right? So it's really, 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 really important. And so, again, Raffo and all these magic systems and how they all work, but you can see that like portable investiture is something a lot of people are trying to figure out, including we saw a use of Galadin, how he used it. And so, yeah, there's a lot we don't know yet, and there's a lot we need to read. It's crazy how much Sanderson has thought about not just each story, but this entire Cosmere and the mechanics of investiture and all these different shards and how they manifest and how it affects the culture, how it affects the people. It's crazy how much he's thought about all of this. And I think that's why we can forgive a little bit of prose problems in earlier books and things like that. Because the story and everything is going to be so good. Like all these interconnected everything. It'll all, button up nicely in the end.
Yeah. So 2 things that I think matter about these chapters. Serene and Hrathen are both single-minded in their purpose, right? Serene has ample reason to leave Arlon and go back home, but she cares about her people. That's why she's there. She's not going to give up just because of this horrible incident where her true love is now a zombie that she doesn't know. And the last thing I think really is that, unfortunately, these horrible things in life can and do happen to literally every type of person. And so it's important to understand that. And if it happens to you, act like Radon. Don't be deterred. Keep trying. And if it happens to someone else, hopefully care about them and help them out. You got anything before we close?
No, that's good. I'm having fun going through Elantris in a deeper dive and really analyzing each of the things that come up and really understanding it. As the Cosmere as a whole, right? Like we don't really know how important Elantris is or the magic here or anything else, but it's really fun to be like, oh, I've read all this other stuff. Wind and Truth especially had a lot of lore information, right?
Yeah.
And now coming back again and being like, oh, how does all this connect to everything? Especially when you're like the latest book versus the earliest book, and you're still seeing little seeds that like Yeah, it's crazy how much he thought about all of this before he started writing. It's crazy. Just wild, mind blowing.
Sanderson's a master. Well, everyone, we'd like to not appreciate you. We appreciate you. We'd like to thank you for tuning in and watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Have a good one.